Destiny crowd has been most outspoken in the comments, and their concerns sound like warnings for Marathon fans. And one warning sounds extremely familiar. As an outsider, after looking into some of the complaints about Bungie, it got me thinking if this game will follow a similar path to Destiny. But there is some hope with Marathon and Bungie as a whole, and that's what we're getting into today. There are a few things I think that can really separate the Destiny experience from the Marathon experience, but could it all be for nothing? Because there's a few mistakes Bungie made before that would just add another fan base to the list that hates Bungie and the way they run a game. Subscribe and like if you want the latest news and discussions about Marathon, Arc Raiders, and other extraction shooters that are coming up. Now, I've never got too into Destiny, but I've heard a lot over the years from friends who live and breathe Destiny, so if I've missed anything that you as a Destiny fan would be worried about with Marathon or any of Bungie's future games, let me know in the comments. I've already seen a few of you point out some things that I didn't even think about. If we're looking at the original Destiny game and how it was released, it doesn't really give us much hope here because it resembles a similar pattern with Bungie in respect to feeling like there needs to be more work to be done and feeling a bit rushed. And this is where some of the things start to feel a bit familiar with the company itself. With Destiny, the story was weak due to Joe Staten's original story being scrapped, and this is the guy who created the best of Halo stories. So yeah, that alone should have been a red flag. There wasn't a lot of content, and the content that was there was a grind for Destiny fans. With the content that was released, there was constant delays. With the DLC that did come out, it seemed like it should have been in the game originally, and they were selling players cut content such as the Dark Below DLC. Then Bungie brought in the Eververse store for Destiny 2, and news came out that Bungie was throttling XP gains to slow down how fast players could earn Eververse rewards. And this is where a lot of the players further lost trust in what they were doing. They vaulted a bunch of the content that people paid for, and eventually it became free to play, which is misleading if you're actually wanting to do anything relevant in Destiny 2. I actually just bought Destiny 2 just to get a feel for it and really understand what people were talking about in the comments. And when doing my research, everyone was pretty much saying that I just have to buy the bundle. They even made people pay $20 for dungeons, and to make things look worse, Justin Truman came out saying how over-delivering to players is a bad idea. He's still working at Bungie today, by the way, so why wouldn't this be the same with Marathon? Though the content minus the story of Destiny was quality, and it's the same for Marathon. The gunplay is amazing, and I'm loving the actual story of Marathon, but it's the same company that only recently had a shakeup with some leadership. Justin Truman still needs to go, but Joe Ziegler is here, and he's trying to save the game, and I believe he can, and here's the why. Joe Ziegler was the game director of Valorant, a ridiculously successful game, and is known for being a visionary. This was definitely intentional. Under his direction, Valorant was one of the most watched games on Twitch, and he's known for being deeply involved with the community by talking to some of the player base playing the game and actually listening to them. If you're on Twitter, you know he's constantly interacting with people and letting you know his plans. He's been listening to the player base, and he's already been making changes. The spamming of grenades, weapon tweaking to the Waster specifically, messing with the runner's abilities, and the Dire Marsh free kit, just to name a few. He's been transparent, which is completely opposite of what frustrated Destiny players. He's the guy who implemented the runner shells within the game, which I think was brilliant because I do think they add some depth within the game. And although the runners should be tweaked, we can also acknowledge that every game tweaks these types of things. Whether it's characters in the game, items, weapons, it's just what happens in games. Now here's the biggest hopium for the Marathon crowd, and I'm going to dive more into this on a future video, but if extraction shooters have been your bread and butter since before Arc Raiders, then you know the game Hunt Showdown 1896. And yeah, I'm going to be showing a Steam chart, so if that sets you off, get those fingers typing. This shows just because the Steam charts are low doesn't mean the game is going to flop automatically. There can be a turnaround, and I believe Joe Ziegler can help with that turnaround because we've literally seen this exact situation before. Bungie has had a shakeup, but hey, it could be too late, and Sony might just scrap the whole thing to focus on their efforts on another Destiny or whatever else. The game came out in an iffy state, so this company doesn't have the option to screw over the people that actually like Marathon. They don't have the luxury with Destiny fans because you know that even though the Destiny crowd was complaining, and rightfully so, a lot of them continue to spend their money on the game when Bungie didn't deserve it, which is probably the biggest reason Bungie got away with it for so long. The majority of Marathon fans aren't from the Destiny crowd, though I do see some in the comments, and that's great to see. But this is a new introduction to Bungie for a lot of these people who might have only played Halo if they're old enough, and most likely haven't touched Destiny, since these are two completely different games that are for the most part attracting a different audience. And that's why this situation is way more fragile than Destiny. There is no leeway, and there's Arc Raiders staring right at these players, so the moment Bungie pulls something, I'm sure there's a section of the crowd that will say, well, let's put all my time into Arc Raiders, and Bungie knows that. Like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here, because the next few months are going to decide everything for this game. Appreciate you and take care.